Good morning, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll be starting the session in 2 minutes. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. I am GVS Abhishek Varma, a Microsoft student ambassador from MBJRCC. Do well to share where you are joining from in the chat. I am from India, by the way. Special thanks to you all for joining this session. Thanks to ambassadors here. Thanks to moderators helping to monitor the chat and lobby. Feel free to share your excitement about AI and Microsoft Cloud, one of the leading cloud providers for cloud services in AI. With the well-heard and most popular tool like ChatGPT and other GPTs which are available in the market. Hope you will enjoy this session. Welcome everyone. This meeting is following Microsoft Code of Conduct. So today's agenda of the meeting was introduction to artificial intelligence, introducing Microsoft Azure, and hands-on session on Azure Cognitive Services. Azure means Microsoft Cloud. Think back to November 2022. Let me take back in time to pre-November 22. Let's start with history. Before 2022, there are a few Azure AI services like Azure Bot Service, Cognitive, Azure Bot Services for bots for platforms like Air India and Twitter bots, which you will be using, and Cognitive Services to search any images, and Form Recognizer to analyze forms, and Video Indexer to index videos, which was most commonly seen in YouTube, etc., and Metrics Advisor to improve or scale up your services or scale down, and Immersive Reader to give to read your entire platform and give an abstract of it, and vision, speech, language, decision. They are models. These are all based on Azure Machine Learning platform. Azure AI platform look like this, a great set of services to target both data scientists and AI developers across all industries. Starting at the bottom of screen, we have Azure Machine Learning. Moving up the platform levels, we have cognitive services. Finally, at Build 2020-21, a set of categories was formed. Applied AI services from customer feedback. We had a good AI platform that served customers at different levels using cloud AI technologies. Then in November 2021, Microsoft introduced OpenAI service in its partnership. These capabilities behind the scenes are being built into Microsoft first-party products. January 2023, OpenAI generally available with ChatGPT release. Quickly afterwards, where Azure Machine Learning has features similar to AWS SageMaker. GitHub Copilot generally available to help coders to generate code. In a sample GitHub Copilot, you can give samples or comments of a particular code, like print hello world in Python in terms of comments. And GitHub will be prompting a sample like a comment. When you click on tab, the entire thing will be written. This makes help us develop new type of functionalities or add a repetitive function to the code by just simply clicking a tab, which was very helpful in long term. For example, let's go over a few of the updates that has just been announced in the last few months. GitHub Copilot, an AI-empowered pair program, has been unleashed for all developers and available on the most common IDEs like VS Code and even the most common and recent GitHub code spaces. The birth of Microsoft Designer, enabling content creators to generate high-quality graphics and illustrations using AI. If anybody here is using tools like YouTube editing videos, etc., they can use this Microsoft Designer to build it very well. Azure OpenAI services enabling the access of Azure customers to OpenAI models in largely available. And a reinforced partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft is announced. With all the workloads running on Microsoft Azure, Even from the website to all of OpenAI services will be running on Microsoft Azure. The new Microsoft Bing with such capabilities empowered by generative AI has become available. ChatGPT and GPT-4 families of models have been added to AI services on Microsoft Azure. Microsoft 365 suite, example like PPT, Excel, Word. Some preview AI empowered features called Copilot, simply called as Microsoft 365, able to able to improve the way of working and interacting with Office tools. GitHub Copilot introducing new preview features, including a chat experience powered by ChatGPT. Even in new Windows 11, where you can see a preview symbol for search, where if you directly input an image, it will read the image and give a sample for it. We can expect a lot of incredible updates in the following months. Read blogs on Microsoft website to find future interesting updates which you may like. See in Microsoft Designer, AI services, and going to the basics of AI in 1980s and 90s. 1966, Eliza, typewritten chatbot simulating a psychiatrist. Return of AI research and birth of new statistical models like using with R, etc. Modern assistants like Siri, Google Assistant, etc. Today, generative AI based on transformer architecture. You can see this sample image where a user was giving an input, and these are the following outputs. To understand what has changed and what all this hype is about, let's do a step back and let's try to define some basic pre-learnings about AI and natural language processing. If we enlarge the time window, we can observe how things weren't always so fast. The first project in AI domain date back to 60s, and the first researcher began to explore the possibility to create machines able to replicate some of human tasks like conversion initially, symbolic reasoning, and it led to important success such as Eliza, the first typewritten chatbot acting as a psychiatrist. However, it soon became clear that such approach does not scale well. Extracting the knowledge from an expert, representing it in computer, and keeping that knowledge accurate turns out to be very complex task and too expensive to practically in many cases. This led to called AI winter in 1970s, a turning point. Eras during 90s with technological evolution of cheaper and most capable to handle large amounts of data. As the data was increasing, basic research methods were failing. So new generative AI were being replaced with it with a common data set or large models. Classified as machine learning, able to learn patterns from data without being explicitly programmed with specific instructions. Where in very large data cases, we program the entire mission to do few tasks. New statistical models called neural networks inspired by biological structures of the brain, made up of interconnected neurons, gave a boost to AI research development. Being able to work well also with more complex inputs, not only categorical or numbers like images and audios. The statistical models belonging to subgroup of elaborating unit, GPUs. The model assistants like Siri, Google Assistant are also built upon these language models. They are very proficient in subdomain of AI known as natural language processing. The capability of machine processing and interpreting the human language identified to specify need in input request from the user. They are also able to pair it with suitable answers. Generative AI is a cutting edge technology in very fields now, and it is able to generate examples starting from a huge amounts of data used to train a model. And when I say huge, I think all of the data publicly accessed on the internet. Like example, when you ask a question which was available in the internet and in ChatGPT data set, you can get its answer. Because of the amount of data used for the training and because of the number of calculations they are able to handle at the same time, The examples those models are able to create could be different type, and we'll see it in more details from text to code to images. In the image, you see the output of a large language model and the tasks it can write. AI can help few of the software tasks which are manually done by human. Agriculture, like using robot harvesters, computer vision to monitor crop and soil health, healthcare, civilian detector, war simulation, education, plagiarism checker, which was most commonly used in educational projects, automated grading, virtual teaching, and bank for fraud detection for transactions. These are few of the examples where AI can replace simple tasks and be better than them. Key workloads or terminologies. Machine learning. This is often the foundation for an AI system and is the way we teach a computer model to make predictions and draw conclusions from data. Use cases. Personalized recommendations like I have seen in streaming platforms, e-commerce sites, and social media. Analyzing historical financial data to predict market trends, stock prices, and more. And even your credit scoring like CIBIL etc. Anomaly detection, the capability to automatically detect errors or unusual activity in a system. If there was a common pattern and there was a small change in pattern, this detection will help the developer or the company to rectify it. Use cases are monitoring credit card transactions and detect unusual usage pattern that might indicate fraud. A race car telemetry system that uses sensors to proactively warn engineers. Natural language processing, which we have heard using our virtual assistants, the capability for a computer to interpret written or spoken languages and respond in kind. Use cases analyze and interpret text in documents, email messages, and other sources. Interpret spoken languages and synthesize speech responses. Automatically translate spoken or written phrases between languages. Interpret commands and determine their appropriate actions. Natural language processing, Microsoft Azure Language Translate Speech and Azure Bot services, which you can find on Azure platform. One popular use case in Azure Cognitive Services, which allow you ask an AI question about your data. You may watch this from the attached video. See, here the user was giving the input and getting an automated output from GPT. This was a sample use case which most commonly everyone is using in these days. Computer vision, the capability of software to interrupt the world visually through cameras, videos, and images. Another key workload is computer vision, which is what we would be utilizing in our demonstration later. Image classification involves training our machine learning model to classify images based on their contents. For example, in a traffic monitoring solution, you might use an image classification model to classify images based on types of vehicles they contain, such as taxis, buses, and cyclists, and so on. For more information, you can find them in Microsoft Learn. Object detection. In machine learning, models are trained to classify individual objects within an image and identify their location within a bounding box. For example, a traffic monitoring solution might be object detection to identify the location of different classes of vehicles. Semantic segmentation is an advanced machine learning technique in which individual pixels in the image are classified according to the object to which they belong. For example, a traffic monitoring solution might overlay traffic images with mask layers to highlight different vehicles. You can create solutions that combine machine learning models with advanced image analysis techniques to extract information from images, including tags. For example, here a person and it's a dog. These both are tags, and a car and a car. Information from images, including text that could help catalog the images or even descriptive captions that summarize the scene shown in the image. Face detection, analysis, and recognition. Face detection is a specialized form of object detection that locates human faces in an image. This can be combined with classification and facial geometry analysis techniques to recognize individuals based on their facial features. Where your phone unlocks based on your facial features and it does not open for your family members because the face features of yours and them vary. Optical character recognition (OCR) is a technique used to detect and read text in images. You can use OCR to read text in photographs, for example, road signs or storefronts, or to extract information from scanned documents such as letters, invoices, or forms. For example, in this image, the Toronto Dominion Park Bank, and the OCR is able to get the text from the image. And here we can see about OpenAI and Microsoft. Microsoft have very publicly partnership with OpenAI. OpenAI trying to build systems that build general intelligence, a real shift in what can be done with machine learning. Normally, very specific models solving specific problems. Partnered about 4 years ago in 2019, world's most advanced supercomputing infrastructure that they train the models on is in turn we get to use those models to build a platform in our platform as well as packaging up for customers to build these platforms on. GPT for build on Azure using specialized hardware. These were the simple things where we'll be giving a prompt and we'll be getting a response. If we are having a better GPT, which will also give us sample images. GPT-3 and GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 can understand and generate text providing a prompt. The model will generate an answer with natural language. Codex translates natural language to code, powers GitHub Copilot, proficiency in a dozen programming languages, are descendant of GPT-3. DALI creates original and realistic art from text description. ChatGPT interacts in a conversational way. Conversation allows for follow-up questions that hold context. For example, here was a common thing. GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 gives us text. ChatGPT conversation, Codex code, DALI to images. For example, here is a Microsoft AI platform where Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform will give us data governance, analytics, operational databases deployed within the Azure subscription, secured by you, accessed only by you, and tied to your datasets and applications, where only you can access your datasets. Enterprise grade security with role based access control and authentication, a simple IAM. Secure networking through private endpoints and VNets. Azure AI is not same as Azure OpenAI services, where in OpenAI services you be using OpenAI tools. These are the sample OpenAI tools. Azure OpenAI services is not the only service available to you. Considering the use case is key. Do you need to manage the service yourself or is built into another Microsoft product? You could leverage such as Power Platform AI Builder. Our scenario-based services are built from understanding strong use cases that our customer need across sectors. By already combining cognitive services together for an easier building experience, you may find them a better fit. OpenAI services is fantastic for natural language processing, text input processing, text conversation, or creating text based on images. However, analyzing images, videos, etc. is another area of machine learning. Azure Machine Learning for your bespoke models, full management and deployment of these models. Using a simple Azure Machine Learning instance, you can use these all services like vision, speech, language decision, and Azure OpenAI services if you add on with OpenAI services, bot service, cognitive search, form recognizer, video index, and metrics advisor, immersive rater, Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Dynamics 365, and partner solutions, etc. Based on the use case of what you use. For example, I need a general purpose model that can handle multiple tasks, etc. Breaking down the custom AI model section, when to prefer OpenAI upon other AI services. Here are typical consideration points that we ask our customers to ask themselves. If you sa- if you have said yes to all of the above, the OpenAI may be the right cognitive service to go with. If you haven't checked yes to all of the above factors, due to any other factors we may come across when going a deep dive on your use case, we have our other cognitive services which may cater better to the scenario. What we are working with you on, we could also have situations where one of our other cognitive services may be needed as a complementary service to OpenAI for a particular scenario. Complexity needed, one service only, specific language used in domain may be a better fit for more domain control. We're using this Azure Machine Learning where you can write your own script and run them. Pricing is a little more complex than other cognitive services currently choosing new models. If you have fine-tuned, consider the extra computing hours needed to process and host regional availability. Still, a new services if data needs to stay in a region, other cognitive services may still be more appropriate. You can find out the OpenAI service pricing from following this link. It changes from location to location. Here was the sample demo where you can follow. The demo will be at last. Using AI responsibly, social implications. Do not humanize AI. Generative AI is not intelligent, deterministic, grounded. Generative AI cannot understand language or maths, understand manners or emotions, known facts that are not in its training dataset. Image created by DALI 2. The output of a generative AI model is not perfect, and sometimes the creator of the model can work against it, can resulting in an output which is a combination of words that the human user can interpret as a mystification of reality, or it can be offensive. In those cases, we talk about models hallucinations. We have covered how a large language model works to highlight that behind what looks like a magic that's no more than a statistical model. Generative AI is not intelligent, at least in more comprehensive definition of intelligence, including critical and creative reasoning or emotional intelligence. It is not deterministic. Since, as we explained beforehand, it adds a certain degree of randomness where selecting the next token to output. It is not trustworthy since hallucinations, such as and references, context, and statements, may be combined with correct information and be presented in a confident manner, making their identification difficult without close inspection and effortful fast checking. It is not able to understand language or math, and it does not know facts that are not in training dataset. For example, ChatGPT 3 does not know about Queen Elizabeth's death. Even part of it was connected to internet. When we work with those kinds of technologies, it is very important to know not only the power and the capabilities, but also the limitations, especially because those limitations might be significant social impacts when these technologies are applied in sensitive scenarios. Where the GPT was different for many members. Few GPT may know few information and few don't. Always ensure to use AI output responsibly. How to mitigate hallucinations. Effective prompt engineering. How you give your input, like what is today, etc. Provide validated data sources. Ask for citations. Tweak parameters, temperature slash Mac length, content filtering. We have a few tools to mitigate the impact of hallucinations. Designing effective prompts has one of one used in demo, enabling the model to customize the answers for your scenarios and our users, providing through providing through the prompt validated data sources and ask the model to cite them answer in a way that the user can double check the correctness of information on their own. Tweaking parameters like temperature, which handles the degree of randomness, or max length of the output. Applying content filtering AI services includes a content management system based on the ensemble of classification models aimed at detecting misuse of prompt, and on the output of the model, applying those filters into your application that uses the model. You can reduce the risk of using it. OpenAI Service Learning Guide. Create an Azure subscription where you can create by clicking on this link. And for basics, what is OpenAI and how to use them? Here is a small link where you can access it and how data is processed and advanced OpenAI integration. You can be accessing them through this link. Thank you. And chart with your own data using ChatGPT and Azure Search. You can build an app server, app cognitive service, Azure OpenAI service, PDF OCR pipeline, where you will be uploading your documents and using Azure Cognitive Search, you can find the required text. Before showing you how this works, let me briefly introduce the solution architecture, which emphasizes how it is working and how it integrates based on different cognitive services and different services available on Azure. Now, as I have mentioned, the cognitive search service enables us to index the input documents hosted in a database. To make them accessible to specific queries, the web app is built of a graphical interface enabling the user to chart with the data in a natural language. By asking questions, the app, the backend act as an orchestrator, converting the user input into a query for Azure Cognitive Search. And users on its turn, the output of the search as a meta context injected. It generates an answer in natural language for the final user, specifying the sources on where the answer is based. Moreover, the solution leverages also Azure Cognitive Services called Form Recognizer, used to crack documents, to handwritten text, tables, and processing language to extract entities etc. You can build this entire free on Microsoft Azure, as it was Microsoft was offering free cloud services for students. Start with $100 Azure credit, no credit card required. You can get this by using this link. Services. Ignite your learning with free cloud resources from Azure for students. Services. $100 credit. Get started with 100 USD in Azure credits to explore the experiment with over 200 basic cloud services. No credit card required. 12 months of services. Access select Azure services completely free for 12 months. Perfect for building your cloud skills and launching personal projects. These free services were limited. The variety of services choose from a diverse range of free offerings, including compute functions, app services, containers for building and running applications, storage, secure and stable operations for your data like blob storage and files, databases create and manage relational databases like MySQL and PostgreSQL, NoSQL databases like Cosmos DB, a proprietor of Microsoft Azure, networking, connected resources and build secure applications with virtual networks and load balancers in networking, AI and machine learning, experiment with powerful services like text analytics, speech recognition, computer vision, and OpenAI services as an add-on. Developer tools, access tools like Visual Studio Code, Azure DevOps, and GitHub to streamline your development workflow for you and within your organization too. Benefits: gain practical cloud experience, learn by doing, and building your cloud skills for future career opportunities. Develop innovative projects, prototype, and launch personal projects without financial limitations. Prepare for industry certifications. Familiar yourself with Azure technologies relevant to industry certifications. Expand your knowledge, explore diverse and services, and discover your new possibilities. Sign up for your free Azure for Students account today and unlock your power of the cloud. Visit the cloud for students for more information and detailed service offers. You can find it from the below link here. Within 2 minutes, there will be a small demo session on how this entire thing works. Please stay. Where you can see the sample. Where this here is a sample Azure service where I have created. This was a, as you can see here, the image you provide appears to be from a SpaceX launch site. The scene captures a rocket launch with the rocket mid-ascension and emitting an intense blaze of smoke. The presence of a large building with the SpaceX logo and an American flag suggests that this location is in the United States. So this is how ChatGPT works. This is an Azure ML learning space box where we're visiting the workspace. Where you can deploy all types of models what you like. Where I'm simply using an notebook now. Where you need to add a simple compute value based on your requirement of your project. You will create. This will be showing your cost and the project needs what you have. This is about this Azure service where you can use based on all the modules. Thank you. The session was over.